Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Masters of Marketing. Super excited to have some little internal chats today around what's happening in all things Marmind. We have two people from Marmind on today. We've got Claudia and Andy on. Welcome guys. Great to have you on.
Thanks for having us. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Sure. Let's talk about like your roles at Marmind. So Claudia, we'll start with you, right? You're a client solution manager and senior project lead with Marmind. I know there's been some updates to that recently.
Yeah,
So what's your latest role?
latest role is team lead client solutions, and I'm very happy to have Andy in my team as well. So yes, big changes all around. Yeah, so I've been a client solution manager, project lead for the past 3.5 years ish, and now moved towards the team lead position, and yeah, very excited about that.
Excellent. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank
So
you.
no pressure. No pressure. It's. But Andy, what's your current role at the business?
Yeah, so I've been at Marmind for a year and a half now as a consultant slash client solution manager. And so my role is to talk to our customers and help them do their plans, budgets, and results in Marmind so they can get more out of their marketing.
Excellent. Claudia, tell me about what your team does as general. So like we just heard what Andy does obviously is holding clients' hands to make sure that they're moving in the right direction. Is probably the best way to put it. Is that the focus of the entire team is?
Well, yes, also, but most of all is understanding the client. So, understanding the customer, really going into the nitty gritty of how their marketing and how their whole business works, just to implement it with the software so it makes sense. And for it to make sense, we need to understand each other. The customer will need to be able to understand the software, which is what we're presenting. And at the same time, we are always there trying to understand their processes, their way of working, which is actually the most important thing, and how they tick. And once we understand this, then we can translate it into the needs that they have, and then basically translate it in how they work with the software. And this is just really getting to know each other from the start and getting to understand their needs and requirements. So then we can say, okay, this is how we configure the software. This is what you actually need instead of what you thought that you needed. So there's a bit of therapy in there as well.
So I think that's a given, right? Because you guys are also working with larger teams, also. But let's before we get into solving some of the challenges of the customer base to actually talk about the software. So, Claudia, you've mentioned the software a number of times. When we're talking about the software, we're talking about Marmind. Marmind is a marketing resource management tool. Andy, in your best words, what is a marketing resource management tool?
So with the marketing resource management tool, what you finally have is the ability to actually gather your plans, budgets, and results into one package and actually spend your time, um, how do we say, orchestrating your marketing. You can actually orchestrate your marketing instead of spending all your time filling out this Excel spreadsheet and then filling out that one and then jumping over to do your to-dos there and then jumping back over to the next spreadsheet to work on your budgets and on your costs, etc. Honestly, I might still be a team lead marketing if I had Marmind at my last position when I was in a marketing team.
Mm, mm, mm. I get it. Like I think one of the things. So you've just said there that it's instead of having everything dispersed across numerous different tools and none of those tools talking to one another, you have everything in one space, right? Which is particularly good when you have a large global team as well, who might typically work
hmm
with as customers, right?
And I think one thing it's really important to mention is that it's not just about having a tooling, getting it all together. I think the really important thing to me is that when a marketing team has Marmind, they can focus on orchestrating fantastic marketing and less on the tasks that they don't enjoy and are not really a match for their skill set. And marketing can do marketing and not all this other stuff.
Yeah, reporting on the reporting. Sorry, Claudia, you want to say something there?
No, and I think it's really important to say that it's not just about the tool itself, because a tool is just a tool. It's about how you work with it and how you communicate in the tool, how you collaborate together and define the process and your own way of working. And then there's usually a lot of change around because, of course, marketers all love their Excel. But having 3,000 excels doesn't really bring a lot of enjoyment. But having all in one place with a tool, but then also being able to see, have transparency of what's going on, why is something a blocker or not, without having to look into the 3,000 excels, brings a lot of happiness and brings a lot of good feedback, because there's different things to focus on, about collaboration in the team and between different teams as well.
Excellent.
Mhm.
Excellent. Like the stuff that you've all made that you both mentioned there, like makes perfect sense. And that's like in terms of the value prop of what Marmind have to offer, you've just covered it perfectly, I would say. But when it comes then to real world challenges that our customers are seeing, like what are some of the things that, let's say at the start of a project rather than later in a project, but let's say it goes through the sales cycle, we end up signing a new business. That new business is a multinational. They have a marketing team with hundreds of people. They're dispersed across global teams, so they've got different geos that they're covering, different focuses across different geos. What are some of the challenges that you typically see? Like, what are the things where you go, "Oh, Jesus Christ, the house is on fire, and we can help"? Like, what's like, what are some of the things you experience there?
Andy, do you want to go first or do you want me to go
Yeah.
first?
So I'll just say I think a lot of times the teams don't necessarily realize that the house is on fire, but when I see what the
No,
teams
I
have,
meant that you see that the house is on fire, Andy, not that the
so
customers see.
yeah, so I think they realize that, boy, this is tough. So I just think about a typical example would be maybe a big retailer that has a headquarters in one country and then they disseminate their marketing campaigns to 10, 20 other countries, where the other countries take some of what's been planned and then they modify it, but they also have to report back to headquarters which parts of the global plan they took over. And when I just look at the usually Excel spreadsheets that they prepare to do this planning and send them back and forth, my head explodes. Actually, I'm really kind of blown away at how many organizational skills and how much competence you have to even keep track of all these spreadsheets and which tabs and copy things back and forth. Yeah, I don't think I would be able to do that. But that's one thing I've seen repeatedly is this incredible difficulty of sort of having a rough plan centrally and then getting that out locally where there's still the ability for the local teams to do their own thing, but also still report back to headquarters.
Like one of the things, just before Claudia, you can jump in, but one of the things that I was always surprised and shocked about, and I think this is still a common misperception, is that the larger the company, the better they're organized, and the better their data is organized, and the better their plan is organized, and they definitely have a better way to store all of this, etc. I could give you an example from another industry. I have done a lot of work and still do a lot of work with customer data platforms, and we sell into large enterprise organizations. And we're like, okay, where do you store all your data? It's like, well, we have this sheet here, and we have this system over here, and we have this over here. It was like, so you have no central location for that? No, we definitely don't. It's a mix and match of like Frankenstein systems plus like old spreadsheets from, I don't know, like 20 years ago. Plus, it's a mess, like an absolute mess. And the misconception is, oh no, everybody must have it in order. But definitely not.
No, and that's why it's so mind-blowing to me that they somehow managed to do this with a lot of effort. I think they must be smarter than I am. Um,
I think actually it's a lot of, and this is where I come in with my opinion. It's a lot of just wiggling around and kind of making it work, and trying to do your best, of course, the whole time, but hoping for the best also. And this is what I see at the start of a big project. It's we start into asking, how's your process? How do you structure yourself? And a lot of the times they're like, oh, we don't know, we don't have a defined process, we don't have a defined way of working. And when you say, and how do you collaborate, or how do you talk to the other teams so that you can go into a defined way of working, it's usually a mess. So this is where we then come in and do a lot of change management. And as Andy also said, when it's about headquarters going into regional regions, there's a lot of we need to start talking to each other to understand each other. And there's a lot of change management involved, and not just, oh, I have this Excel and you need to fill it out so then I can have another Excel here. It's about, we want to look at the same thing and work towards the same goal. And defining this, I mean, it starts simple with a taxonomy. You see, one country or one region has a completely different taxonomy. They have a completely different outreach, and trying to align this all together for one company is sometimes a really, really big issue. And just for them in their company to start speaking the same language is something that we need to start in the project right at the start, so that we have something to define that, oh, we're talking about social media, but someone is talking about, oh, I'm just pushing something out for a Facebook post, and the other person just goes down right into the nitty gritty and says, I have this dimensions on my Facebook post, XYZ, this is what I need. And to kind of come together and then say, okay, this is the level we want to talk about, that we want to discuss, is the biggest first step that we need to take.
Change management is something you said a couple of times there, Claudia. Change management, I don't know if anybody's heard, but change management is a pain in the arse. Because
Yes.
because if people absolutely despise one thing, it's change. So how are you dealing with that with the team?
We usually have to be very kind to everyone, try to get everyone involved that needs to be on the table. So right from the start, we try to go in and get all the people that we need to talk to onto the same table, or into the same teams meeting, let's be honest. And really show them, okay, this is what we need, this is where we want to go, and show them the goal. Where do we want to go, where do we want to arrive at some stage, so they also can start feeling excited about it, but really always keep them up to date. And this is really an issue also when we coming back to Andy's example, having a lot of countries, a lot of regions, and or operating units now in one company, to set this defined goal of where we want to go, and everyone speaking the same language. Change is really difficult, and it's so much easier to stay where you are because it's kind of working together. But really showing them what is the benefit of talking the same language really helps, and really getting people excited and interactively, starting to talk the same language, makes it a lot easier.
It's also slow as well, right? So people are it's slow to change, and it's one of the things that is probably a challenge that you need to balance a little bit, guys. Is when you're with it, when you come into a new business that's recently signed a contract with us, and to bring them on a journey to say, hey, look, we need to start with this change now, but they probably want to see some results relatively quickly. How do you mitigate that? Because change is not going to come overnight.
Do you want to go ahead, Annie, or do you want me?
Well, I think the thing about change and Marmind is that Marmind as a product is enjoyable to use, and it, it it creates a lot of possibilities that teams didn't have before, which can make the process a bit easier. I'm thinking right now about one of my customers. It's a, say, a mid-sized beverage company where they are not international, but they were pulling together teams from 4 different locations that had never worked together before. And at first, it was like, oh, oof, now we all have to work the same way, and we don't know how this is working. And then you could see how they adopted the change. First, they saw how much. I think their biggest pain point was actually with budgets and with tracking their costs. And when they saw how much easier Marmind made this process for them, we got a lot of buy-in already. And the other thing is that the teams, the stakeholders came together individually and really worked intensively on how they wanted to use Marmind and how they could get the most out of the system. And that made the change process a lot easier. And I see it with each meeting when we want to show new features or new ways to, look at their planning, and they go, whoa, we can do that too. And then you see how much energy and excitement there is around making this a successful change process, because they see what's possible, and they see this vision of how their jobs will be more fun and how the marketing is going to be more effective when the process is through.
So it's about making people excited with the product, basically, right? So you're able to show them the way of the
Hmm.
future based on them getting to use the product, right?
Yeah.
And maybe from my side as well, it's treading a really fine line, because this between this difficult change and the magic that kind of happens there. And for example, one of my customers, we've been working towards a rollout and really intensively, and we've been doing a lot of testing, and everything is going really well. But what we haven't done is doing the legacy high level complete campaign planning up to now. It was always just testing data, and they know their way around the product already so well, but they've never seen the way they worked before completely, all of their 500 campaigns, and how it's going to look in Marmind now. And now we've migrated this in for the first time before rollout, so we can roll out. And they've seen all of these big plans, the Gantt charts, and how when you switch around all of the data that's in one place. They called me afterwards and were just so excited, like little children. It's like, oh my God, we knew how it works, but we didn't know that it's going to be like this. And it was this was just now, and it made me personally also so happy, because we've been working really close together, and the absolute excitement for it is a bit of magic in there as well, because the change was hard, and now they see the fruits of it.
How big is the company you're talking about, Claudia? We don't need to give any names, but
um like a major company, about 8,000 people, and a lot of people in marketing as well. So we're rolling out, and because they were kind of also the people that had different operating units that didn't really talk together, didn't have an overview what the other one's doing. And they were just also very excited about going into the rollout, into the trainings. And now that they have all of their campaigns already in there, they can really start working on it from scratch. And that's really a pleasure, and that's what makes the job a lot of fun.
let's drill into the campaign management aspect there, because you've just mentioned campaigns and the fact that they've started to manage their campaigns, plan their campaigns through Marmind. Give me a bit of an overview in terms of what Marmind offers from a campaign management perspective.
Annie, do you want to, or do you want me to start? It's like,
I,
Annie am I talking about, right?
it's kind of hard for me to really say this in a short way because it's so powerful. But this aha moment that I've had several times now with different clients is how when you have your entire planning in Marmind and then you open the plan module and you can say, now I want to see all of my campaigns that have email marketing in them, and then you make a new group and then the plan shifts. Or another client that had a big struggle because they have a lot of retail media projects, and so they would want to see, oh, which marketing campaigns have my suppliers, my customers in them, which if everything is in different Excel spreadsheets, you can't do that. And if it's in Marmind, you go click, 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 and then the whole plan turns. It's like turning the dice, and then suddenly you see everything from a new perspective.
Got it. Got it.
Also, in campaign planning, there's a lot of different approaches, company by company. Some companies do a complete yearly plan that they stick to completely. I mean, this never happens, let's be honest, but they try at least. And some companies really go from quarter to quarter, or just ad hoc campaigns, and that's always a very different approach. How do we start? Where do we start? Do we start from, I have an operating unit, or I have an idea section about campaigns, where we sit together and start just, what are my ideas for campaigns, and just start out with writing them down, creating the idea campaigns in Marmind, and then kind of in our working process, say, okay, this is what we want to do, this is kind of the touch points that we want to reach with this, these are the kind of people that we want to reach, and then kind of move it from an idea to a reality. But at the same time, you always see, okay, there's something going on. Or even during the year, when you have a big yearly plan, at some stage you go, okay, oh, this campaign, this was planned for February, we already have the 1st of January, let's get a wiggle on here. It kind of gives you also accountability in your planning. And that's really important, because a lot of the time it's just like, it's in an Excel spreadsheet, I'm just gonna delete the row and nobody saw it. And this is something that is more difficult now.
Yes, exactly, because you're able to see everybody across the entire company, depending on the permissions as well. But senior management are able to just see what's happening in a specific region very easily, rather than traipsing through emails or spreadsheets or PowerPoint presentations, whatever it might be, right? It's all stored in
Mm-hmm.
Marmind. This campaign was fixed to go in February. It's the 1st of January. There's no to-dos against it. There's no campaign assets. There hasn't been any ask of campaign assets. What the hell is going on?
Exactly. It's a good thing about transparency, but also accountability long term.
Absolutely. I think one of the things as well, sorry, Andy, just before I go up to you, is one of the things as well is, if you're able to look at the campaign, you're able to drill into exactly what is happening within that campaign. What's the budget for it? What's the results for it? What are the campaign assets? So if you need any creative, if you need whatever, it can all be stored within Marmind, right? So like, if anybody at any point wants to see everything that's connected with that one campaign, they can just, by a couple of clicks, see everything. If you want to roll that campaign out to another region because it did particularly well, you could copy and paste and push it out to another region, right? Very easily. Sorry, Andy, you go ahead. I was going on a
Absolutely. Well,
rant.
because we've been talking about, everything is there and accountability and all that. I think one of the most important things to remember in terms of keeping a good overview is the ability to look at things from a different perspective, but also take out the information that you don't want to see. And also this topic of reporting to management. One of the things that I always dreaded when I was in a marketing team was hearing, oh, we need to have a report about all of the things that you did for this target audience, or why did you only focus on that target audience and not this one? And I knew, because I was in the team, that that's not true. But the ability to quickly extract all of the data out of my planning and say, no, actually, we treated both target audiences equally, that might be, half of a day of looking through plans and making reports. And if you have Marmind, you just click, 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 and then you have it in your plan, or you can export it, or you can what have you. So it's also a transparency that comes from being able to only see the things that you want to see that are relevant to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, guys, look, we're right up on time now, so I really appreciate you both coming on. And hey, let's keep smashing it for our customers. I think the great thing about Marmon is it's growing from strength to strength, and we're with more and more larger customers, enterprise sized customers, and some of the biggest blue chip names across the DACH at the moment, which is super great. And it's up to you guys now to make sure that you keep on delivering those experiences that our customers demand, right?
course, and we will. We
We
always do.
will.
No
Yeah, it's
pressure,
fun.
guys. Good, good, good,
Thank you
good.
very much, Andy.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Andy.
guys.
Take
Thanks,
care.
guys. Cheers. Take it easy. Bye bye. Guys,
Bye.
this has been another episode of Masters of Marketing. Tune in next week for more great content. Thanks, guys.